Hello and welcome to another podcast episode. If you're a regular viewer, you might be wondering why my background is a bit different this week. Well, I will tell you what's happened in a minute. I did not expect to be celebrating a New Year in Norway, but I did, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I've also got a new project on the needles, some progress on another project. I've got some new yarn and a few other things to tell you. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through our website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. So before I go into the reason why I'm in Norway, I did have a 20% offer on my website, which would have finished today. Yes, it was due to finish today, the day I'm filming this video. But I had to finish it early because I had to basically close my website down on Saturday evening, I think it was, because I had to go to Norway as a matter of urgency. So I had to stop that offer early. And a couple of people have messaged me saying they were going to place an order and now they can't. So I'm going to reactivate that offer when I know when I'm going to come home. So a couple of days before I get back to the UK, I will reactivate that offer and probably run it for like a week. Hopefully it'll be later in January, around the middle of January. But I don't know yet because I don't know what's happening here yet. But instead I'm going to do 20% off all my online courses, which I hadn't planned to do. But because I had to cancel the website offer, I'm going to decide to do 20% off my online courses because quite frankly I could do a little bit of boost in sales at the moment. So basically I had to come to Norway last minute because on Saturday afternoon, late Saturday afternoon, I think it was, yes, late Saturday afternoon, I had a phone call saying that my mum was on her way to hospital in an ambulance with a suspected broken hip. My dad has dementia, so he can't be on his own, and they were with some friends when this happened, so their friends were trying to arrange emergency care for my dad, and the local authority couldn't do anything. So my nephew, who's only 20, had to drive to spend the night with my dad and look after him on Sunday till I got here. For those of you who don't know, I lost my sister 4.5 years ago. So I booked flights Saturday night and packed. I'm glad I got clothes here, so I didn't have to like worry about packing loads of clothes. And I just had to basically pack my hand luggage, and then we got up at 1 a.m. on Sunday morning because I wanted to get her as early as possible. Normally I prefer like a late afternoon flight, so I got all day to get to the airport because living in the far southwest of England is not very easy. Heathrow, which is the nearest London airport, is about 4.5 hours ish away, depending on traffic and stops and things. And Stansted is about 5.5, 6 hours. So by car, so you know it's a long way to go. But I wanted a morning flight, so obviously I wanted to get her as early in the day as possible. And the earliest, after looking at several flight options, I decided Scandinavian Airlines was my best option, and they fly from Heathrow, which is the nearest London airport to us, so that was also good. The morning direct flights to Oslo were all fully booked, so the flight that would have got me here earliest was via Stockholm, and I only had an hour stopover in Stockholm. And an hour is not very long when you have to go through immigration because I'm flying from outside the EU into the EU. So I had to go through immigration in Stockholm, and I also had to go through security again, which I didn't expect. It was a separate security from the main airport security, so it was a lot quicker. And then change flights. So I knew an hour was going to be quite a tight gap in order to be able to do that. But then there was fog in London, so our flight was delayed by nearly an hour, which meant that I landed in Stockholm just as my flight to Oslo was taking off. Very impressed with Scandinavian Airlines. By the time I landed and switched my phone back on, I had an email and a text message from them saying that they had rebooked me on a different flight. And when I opened the app, my new boarding pass was there. They'd booked me on a new flight, checked me in. So everything was fairly smooth. So I had 3 hours, 2.5 hours to boarding, so 3 hours in total in Stockholm. So plenty of time to rest and get something to eat and do a bit of knitting. And when I arrived in Oslo, I had to get a train to a town just north of where my parents live, and my nephew met me there, and we drove to my parents' friends where their car was, so I could collect their car, and then came to my parents' house. And my mum was operated on the next day, so I couldn't see her the first full day I was here. And she's still in hospital, she's doing well, but I think it's going to be a long recovery. So hopefully I will know more next week, but I think I'll probably be here for like a couple of weeks. I was actually due to come in February, so my plan is to get back to the UK middle of January, and then I'm coming back here about a month later, so it's not that big a gap. I'm glad now that I had that trip already booked, so that when I leave my parents this time, they know it's not going to be that long a gap till I'm here again. So that is how I find myself in Norway. Now, some of the things I planned to share in this week's episode, I can't share because they're knitting I did and left at home. So I'm just going to talk about them very briefly here, and then I'll share more about them when I get home. So if you watched the last episode, you know that I had finished, I think, my Discreet Unicorn advent calendar bag. So I'll put a picture of the screen. It's not the greatest picture, it was just a progress picture I took, but I knitted up the bag all the colors last time I filmed, I think, but I hadn't done the top edging. I ended up doing the top edging 3 times because I realized I had to decrease some stitches, but first time I didn't decrease any stitches and it ended up too wide. Then I decreased some stitches, but it wasn't enough, and then I finally went with my original instinct and decreased 1/4 of the stitches, which was much better. And I was going to make the lining over the weekend and order some handles, but obviously I didn't get that done, so I need to finish that when I get home. I also did a bit of spinning over Christmas. I got a fibre advent calendar from For the Love of Yarn, and I really enjoyed opening it, but now I have all this fibre to spin. I had planned to go to my local spinning group this month. I'm not going to be able to do that because I don't think I'll be back in time because it's next weekend. So I did spin a bit between Christmas and New Year, and I was really enjoying it, but I think I only spun up day 1 and 2 of the advent calendar. I also knitted some hats before Christmas for my husband and my daughters. My husband's I finished a while ago, my daughter's I finished just before Christmas. But I think I did say last week that I wasn't sure if my oldest daughter's hat was big enough. It was big enough, but she wanted it slightly longer. So I unpicked it, and I was going to unpick it from the cast off edge. So when you knit this hat, it's a double layer hat. So you cast on for the crown one end, you increase for the crown, then you knit a long straight bit, and then you decrease for the crown the other end. And I was obviously going to unpick from the cast off, from the decreased end, and somehow, I don't know why, and I ended up picking it from the increased end, which I didn't realize it was too late, and then I just had to go for it. So you got decreases both ends, which wasn't what I wanted. So I'd already unpicked that and started knitting it, and I knew I only had like 1 centimetre or so left to knit before I could decrease again. So I decided to take that with me in the car. So on the day I went to Norway, I basically got up at 1 AM and we left at 2 AM to drive to Heathrow, and I wanted to try and get some sleep on the way to the airport, but I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep straight away. So I'd only had 2 hours of sleep because I couldn't get to sleep till like 11 o'clock. So I did a bit of knitting, thought I'll see if I can finish this hat on the way to the airport. So I did the extra length and did the decreases. And by the time I'd done all that, we were only like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from Heathrow. And then we decided to have a stop and switch driving. So my husband and my daughter Vanessa both took me to the airport. So Simon had done all the driving and Vanessa did the last kind of hour or so. So I was like, right, I need to try and get some sleep. You know what it's like when you think like I have to sleep, you can't sleep. But I did finish Vanessa's hat, so that's all done, but it was dark when we got to the airport and they were literally just dropping me off. It's quite expensive to drop off at the airport. If you just like drop and go, it's about £5 I think, which isn't too bad, but if you stay for a bit longer it gets very expensive very quickly. So they literally just stopped, kicked me out of the car and drove, which was fine. So I didn't have a chance for her to try it on to make sure she's happy with it, so I'm hoping it's okay. I basically just finished it and I threw it to her in the back seat and said I hope that's okay. I do apologise that the lighting is a bit bad. I'd hoped to get this filmed this morning while it was still light outside so I could use the natural light, but I couldn't get that done and I've only got the ceiling light and the lighting isn't great. It's going dark. I'm filming this, it's nearly 4 o'clock, so it's quite dark. Sunset here is about 3:30 I think at the moment. 3:25, 3:20. Then I cast on for another hat for myself, but I didn't get much done. I think I managed to do the increases for the crown and a little bit more, but I thought about taking that, but I decided not to. So I ended up taking my jumper with me, which I have on the needles. I can't remember where I got to last time I filmed, but I think probably I had either finished the top or nearly finished the top. So it's knitted from the top down. I do the back first to the underarms, and then I did the left front to the underarms and then the right front to the underarms. And I can't remember whether I'd finished the right front last time or nearly finished the right front, but I have now finished the right front and I've joined for the underarm. And I don't think I'd done that last time I filmed because I filmed quite early last week. So I don't think I'd done that. So I am now, that's basically, I'm holding it upside down now. So that's basically how far I've knitted from the underarm. Today I've knitted, no, today I've not knitted anything. That's what I knitted yesterday. I didn't get a lot of knitting done when the day I was traveling, even though I had about 3 hours I think at Heathrow, and about 2, well I guess by the time I got to the lounge in Stockholm and I had to head for my gate, it was probably like 2 hours. And then, you know, I had like basically all day Sunday, all day Monday, because we couldn't go to the hospital on Monday. We had to go shopping and do a few errands, and I went for a walk and stuff. But I basically had a long time, but I didn't do anything on Monday. Well, I did a bit on Monday, but not a lot. So I haven't got a lot done since I've been here. Yesterday I did 3 centimeters. My goal is to try and do at least 3 centimeters a day. If you're watching my podcast back in November, you may remember when I was here in November, I basically knitted this same sweater in 2 weeks. In the 2 weeks I was here, I ordered the yarn, had it shipped to my parents, cast on the sweater the evening we arrived, because we arrived like middle of the afternoon, I think. And I finished it the morning I was leaving for the airport. So this time I've knitted like the top bit to the underarms before I got here, and I'm still not sure whether I'm going to finish it. I should be able to, but because obviously now I have to do everything. I have to do all the cooking, all the house chores, drive to the hospital. I have another project I knit on at the hospital, drive home again, and it's just been a lot less time for knitting. I'm basically just knitting on this in the evening, and I must admit it's feeling quite slow at the moment, but I would like to try and finish this before I get home. So that's my goal with this one. It is a Norwegian yarn. It's called Rauma Alpaca Silk. Do I have a label here? No, I don't have a label here, but it's Rauma Alpaca Silk, which I ordered in the UK from a UK yarn shop. So that was my travel project, and fund my main project while I'm here. But I wasn't sure about taking that to the hospital with me because it's quite big and it will grow, obviously grow bigger. Remember, I'm keeping it in this bag, which is a pouch from YarnAddict, which is, I think it's a Danish company. My tote bag that I used on the trip was also from them. And that's quite a nice sized bag, but it's not going to fit it for that much longer. So I decided to get a smaller project to take to the hospital. I wear socks every single night, hand knitted socks every single night because my feet get really cold. And I have a pair of socks that I left here last winter, I think, earlier in the year sometime, last year now, in 2024. I decided in 2023 to start leaving some clothes here because since my sister passed away, I've been seeing my parents a lot more frequently. First couple of years, I was trying to see them in Spain as much as possible because they had a flat in Spain. And I can get to Spain much easier than I can get to Norway because all three of my local airport, Newquay, Exeter and Bristol, all have flights to Alicante. And it's the same flight time as it is from London to Oslo. So I could get to Spain much, much easier. And my parents lived quite close to the Alicante airport. So I was trying to kind of persuade my parents that it was easier for me to see them in Alicante because I knew they were talking about selling the flat. Unfortunately, they still decided to sell the flat 2 years ago, I think it was, which I think with what's happened since was the right decision for them. But it made it more difficult for me to see them. But I had been coming to Norway a lot more frequently in the last 4.5 years, you know, for obvious reasons. And in fact, in the last year, I was here last Christmas, March, May, September, November, and now, and I'm coming again in February. I'm kind of aiming for 4 times a year, but might be 5 or 6 times a year. So anyway, I have gradually over the last couple of years been leaving stuff here, and in May I decided just to take the clothes I needed to leave here. So I have enough for like summer and winter, so that when I go now I can just pack a backpack with like my medication, my knitting, my tablet, my bits and pieces that I need. And I still end up with like a full backpack, and my backpack is the maximum size so you can fit as a personal item carry-on. So it has to fit under the seat in front of me. One pair of socks here to wear at night, woolly socks, because my feet get really cold. But I was thinking I could really do with another pair of socks. So the first day I was here, I popped into the local yarn shop after I've been grocery shopping. I thought a little bit of a treat going to the local yarn shop. But obviously I don't want to buy loads of yarn because I am going home with just a backpack. So I bought some of this yarn, which is Regia, what's it called? Regia Design Line Random Stripe. It is a calf facet yarn. I love Regia. It's a very durable sock yarn. It says on it, the durability of Regia is 4-fold. Dimensionally stable, whatever that means. Hard wearing, machine washable up to 40 degrees, no felting, dryer proof. I don't tumble dry it, but I do wash it on 40 degrees in Norway. So I only wear my socks in bed. So before I go home, I'll wash them with whatever other washing I need to do. The pair I've got here now are Regia, and they got a little bit bubbly. I noticed last time I was here when I washed them on 40 degrees. So I decided to knit another pair. And if I can finish these while I'm here, I think I will probably leave this here as well. So I've got 2 pairs here. Now the colour is not showing up very well on camera because it's a bit dark in here. But it has purples, blues, turquoise, and I'm sure I've knitted with this before, but I don't have any socks in this color. But I think this is like an old colorway, and I nearly bought this yarn earlier in the year when I was here. I'm trying to think when that was. Might have been September, because or was it last time I was here? No, it might have been, I don't know, at some point. Yeah, it might have been last time I was here in November. I can't remember, but at some point I bought some sock yarn because I ran out of knitting. Yeah, I think it was probably September, and I bought some Regia then, but it was a different colorway, and I nearly bought this colorway then. So this time I thought, right, I'll get this colorway. I am actually developing a new pattern. I started last year. I've actually knitted it several times now, but I haven't written it up properly yet. But I started experimenting with German short row heels. Now, I don't particularly like short row heels. They don't fit me that well. But I decided if I did some increases for the gusset, did the short row heel and then decreased them, then that might be better. And I did that on a couple of pairs of socks last year, and they fit me quite nicely. Still not 100% sure, happy with my short rows. I've tried the what's it called, Fish Lips Kiss heels, which is a pattern on Ravelry. When I bought the pattern, it was like £1 or $1 or whatever, but it is so many pages. It took me quite a few years to actually try it because it's just such a long pattern, and I thought I don't need to read like, I don't know, 10 pages, whatever it is, just to knit a heel. But there's a lot of stuff in there about fit and things, but just the wordiness of it kind of annoyed me a bit. Then eventually a few years ago I did knit it, and I wasn't happy with it at all. It just didn't look very neat, so I didn't do anything more. Then I read about shadow wrap heels, so I tried that. That was a bit better, but I still wasn't 100% happy with it. So then decided to try German short row heels, which is better. I'm still not 100% happy with them. And that just might be my technique intention. I don't know. So I'm going to do them again and see if I'm happy with them this time. So all the knitting I've done on this so far has been at the hospital. Sunday, when did I get this? I got this on Monday. So Monday night I cast on for the toe and knitted the toe, and then I knitted the rest of the hospital. When I got to the hospital today, I'd got to a few rows, I think 5 rows before that marker. That marker marks where I started increasing for the gusset before the short row heel. I'm not intending to go to the hospital tomorrow, I don't think. I feel like I could do with a day off. The hospital is about 45 minutes drive south each way, and then we're there for like a couple hours. So it takes a good 4.5 hours a day, which is quite a lot. And on yesterday, day before, I think it was, yeah, day before yesterday, it started snowing, but just before we were leaving the hospital. So it snowed all the way driving home, and it was by 4 o'clock, so it was starting to get dark. It was starting to get quite dark by then, and it was snowing the whole way. And we got home, and we had no problems on the motorway. It was quite smoothly, but I did drive slower than what I would normally do. But when we got home, about an hour after we left the hospital, so yeah, so about half an hour after we got home, I guess, we turned the local news on, and they said that there'd been loads of accidents on that stretch of motorway that we'd driven. And I was like, well, we didn't see anything. It was all fine when we came through. So we clearly left the hospital just in time. And then yesterday it was snowing when we left for the hospital, and the whole time we were there, and when we came home. So we went a bit earlier, so we were coming home in daylight. But it was snowing quite heavily yesterday. Today there was snow on the ground, but it hasn't snowed anymore today. And the motorway was more or less clear. There wasn't a lot of snow on the motorway. Okay, I think that's it for today. So hopefully in the next week I will finish at least the first sock, maybe both, and finish the body on my sweater, I think is my goal, before I film the next episode of this podcast. Podcast will now be on Fridays, and I will have a normal Tuesday video. On Tuesday this week I had a video on the 3 knitting tools I cannot live without. In November, I think it was, I had a video called Do We Really Need All These Knitting Tools and Notions? And then I filmed one saying, well, yes, these are the things I can't live without. So if you want to see what my must-have knitting tools and notions are, watch Tuesday's video. I will link it at the end of this video and below. I don't know what the Tuesday video is going to be next week. I have a couple of ideas. I'm hoping to film one of them tomorrow. My plan was to film them before Christmas, and I didn't get time. And then I thought I was going to try and film them last week, but I just didn't get around to it. And now I really wish I'd filmed them. But I'm going to try and film them tomorrow or over the weekend. So if I can film one, there will be a Tuesday video, but if not, there may not be anything till next Friday. It just depends on how things go while I'm here. But hopefully there'll be a podcast next week. So don't forget, you can get 20% off my online courses. I will put the code on the screen and in the description below. Go to yarnaddict.co.uk and click on online courses, or the link will be below this video as well. You can choose from continental knitting, Scandinavian stranded colorwork and steeking, which is basically the same as fair knitting and steeking, and successful lace knitting, successful brioche knitting, finishing techniques, and successful socks. So quite a few different technique-based courses to choose from. I will put all the details below this video and the link and the code that you will need for that. Also, I have, I think it's 25% off. I can't remember, my patterns valid until the 7th of January, I think it is. I'll pop the details on the screen and below because I can't remember, but that finishes on, I think it's the 7th, which I think is Tuesday. So make sure you take advantage of that if you haven't already, and then make sure you sign up to my newsletter, because I will send out newsletter when I'm coming back from Norway to reactivate my 20% off my website. So all the yarn, beads, knitting notions, all that kind of stuff. So in the meantime, let me know in the comments what you've been knitting over Christmas and New Year. Happy New Year. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and New Year period, and I hope you will have lots of joy and happiness and yarny goodness in the next year. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.